Good morning, YouTubers. Snake Nut here. I took the liberty of installing those dual LED M/amp meters. As you can see, the voltage currently is 12.6. This voltmeter, it's attached to this charge controller. I don't know whether you can pick this up. It does this. I don't know why it always does this, but if I disconnect this wire from the positive cable that comes from the solar panel, the 40 or 50 watt solar panel, if I remove this, then this completely functions. It doesn't go off and on. The only thing that should be flickering is the arrow. When we go down here, we see that this is now the 5 amp focus charge controller. We have this dude connected to it. The original plan was to have the black and red of this display unit hooked up to a USB cable, but I came to the realization that the displays, they do not turn off. I repeat, they do not turn off. When the sun normally goes down at night, both turns off. Of course, I mean, what is 20 milliwatt ampere per display? It's actually peanuts. This blue display actually draws a lot more power than the red volt display and the blue on this display unit. So for me to actually have it switched off at night it's actually not really necessary. So I have it installed in. I'm still waiting to see how it goes by. As time goes by, how it will react. So far, the only problem I have with this LED display dual, let me just call it VA meters, because it's quite a mouthful to constantly have to remember it exactly as it is. So let me quickly take you outside so you can see the situation. So before I do, notice that it does display the volts and the amps coming in, but it takes a while for it to actually do that. This charge controller actually gets to charge of 10 or 20 minutes or even half an hour. It depends on how the weather is outside. Is it cloudy? So far I can only use cloudy as a variable or point of reference. So it switched off, on and off, on and off. It's early morning, so these guys are normally off at night. So it starts around say 6:30 or 7:30. But as we're now moving towards which season is next? I think it's autumn or winter. I'm not the winter guy. I just know when it's cold and I know when it's hot and I know when it's cool. So please forgive me regarding that matter. So I'll try to keep tabs on them during the course of the day. To come back to this, yeah, so that's the only reason this was part of the plan, to have it hooked up that way. The power supply represents the solar panel, and then the load in this in this phase, if I can call it that, will be representing the battery. So I have actually 3 of these VA meters. The third one, I'm planning to install it here somewhere on this reclaimed board, but then I'm also thinking of having it installed on the solar setup for the garage area, the LED setup that I have going on there, because as you can see here, it's to 1 decimal point. So when we see 0.3, it's actually 0.300 milliamperes. But for me it's actually fine. I'm not sure if this can be adjusted. I think it should be possible, because there's another, I don't know if you can see, there's space for another unit to be displayed, so maybe it can be to 2 decimal places. In the unplasticking or unboxing, or you see there, it trips up again. It normally does this every morning and sometimes in the evening. Depends on how the light, it depends on the light situation outside. And it's not really a deal breaker for me. See, this guy is off. He will be on, say, within 5 or 10 minutes from now. As you can see, this solar panel is, as you can now see, the solar panel it's been stabilized. The only thing that should be flickering is the arrow pointing from the solar panel to the... Now at night, I mentioned this before, at night when I had it hooked up using a USB port, it didn't allow any of that to actually come to an end. Just turn it like this. You can see it's 4 to 30 volts. It completely refused to turn off. It remained like this. It remained lit at night. And I didn't like that because I wanted to know, I don't know whether it was drawing power from the battery, because it definitely wasn't from the solar panel because it's night. So I had to scrap this. So all I basically did was I removed the black cable that's supposed to come from the VA display, and then I basically hooked up the red to the same cable that comes from the supply, and my setup of course representing the solar panel. If I do decide to hook up the third VA with its shunt as the output for my USB ports, like my USB ports which powers like the USB fan, even the Bluetooth, even the speaker here at the back, which is what I use to fire I use it as an output device from the PC in my bedroom, and power banks, etc, etc. If I choose to go that way, then how this will basically look like, this then will become the battery, and then this will be the load. I believe this is what it was originally intended for, to measure the power coming from the source to the loads. I just feel maybe it is out there in the wild, I don't know, but this is a channel where I like to try things out, and if they are success, I will definitely let you know. If they are failure, I will definitely let you know. For the astute viewer of this channel, you may notice this red. I'm not sure what that red is all about. This is the only VA meter that does that in the two that I've opened from its plastic. Again, it's not a deal breaker. So see you guys a bit later when both are fired up. And oh yeah, this also will be an excellent opportunity for me to find out with this VA meter if the panel that I have installed, the one for that says 40 watt in front, but on the specifications at the back it says 50 watt. This would be a good time to see if, I don't know if it's today or tomorrow, but I think I will definitely make a video whenever that opportunity presents itself, because there are two panels working. This one has its job to do, this one has its job to do. As the sun moves through the sky from the east to the west, this one is actually more towards the west, the 40 watt panel, let me just say 40 watt for panel now, and this 30 watt panel is more towards the east, where the sun makes its first appearance in the morning. So as the sun moves from east to west, these guys have the job now of aiming to push the battery voltage to 14.4, 14.5. This is considered the bulk charging, bulk stage. So it should be interesting. It should really be interesting. See you guys a bit later. Actually, it rained last night. Weather as it is now could change. The summer rainfall has been very weird this morning. As you can see, if you can see in the background, that is the 40 watt panel with the logo, with the power output written on the right top corner, 40 watts, and then 50 at the back, west and east. So I'll be back a bit later. Oh, then there's this one extra thing I would like to mention. You see, the process when it's starting up, like now it only started up about a minute or two ago before I pressed the record button. Like this guy, I don't know why, but I presuppose it's because it's aimed to the east, and this is aimed to the west that it does that. But here's the funny thing, then the load immediately kicks on. Let me get that into the screenshot. Then the load immediately kicks on, and then it actually causes the dusted on feature to turn on the mosquito. Of course, again, it's not a deal breaker. Maybe this controller acts weird when, I don't know, I'm not, there's still I don't know, anyway, as you can see, the volts now is currently reading 9.3 at 1.5 amps. It's a one pointed more or less in the opposite direction of the sun, so I'm not sure if it is. Let me try turning it off. The way I have it connected here is, you see the yellow light goes directly to the solar panel. So the only thing what happens when I switch it off, the current no longer flows, and then as you can see here, the volts, it shoots up a bit. As you see, it plays around. It doesn't like that. It requires the volts of the display unit and the current to be on at the same time. As you can see, the power doesn't come through, but when I turn it on, you see, it turns on, but then this still remains on. Now this normally just remains on for, I don't know, maybe 5, sometimes 20 minutes. And as you can see here, the volts, I suppose that this is under load, 9.4 volts at 1.6. So that's about it. This guy is quite stable. Maybe the two of them are in good fellowship. Maybe the two of them don't like each other. I don't know. I don't want to make this a political channel in the electronics world. But that's about it. You see there? I don't know whether you picked up on the solar panel disappearing. But yeah, it is what it is. Let me see if I can maybe bring it back when this thing is finally, it wakes up, then it acts, you see, as you can see, the main battery is 12.5. So this is the one thing I still cannot figure out. And as we saw outside, so the sun isn't out yet. I know how, I wish I knew why it's doing that. But if you have any experience with this VA meter, 100 volt at 50 amps. Of course, now the one downside, the one that I'm still contemplating, given that the black is no longer connected, given that it's not in this setup, where the black cable is now actually available, it does have now a drawback for me personally, for my setup. It may not be for you, but for me it's true. The solar panels read out, say early morning, as we can see now, it's say 10, even sometimes from 15 volts. Let's say from the solar panel from 15 volts to 22 volts. This means now this whole system, even though this can carry up to 100 volts at 50 amps, the way I have it rigged up, it's now limited to 4 to 30, because if I go beyond the 30 volts, this display may end up getting hurt or burned out. In the unboxing, I stated that 24 volts, the system can be set up for, so when I say system, I mean that the power can flow through the, say, 100 volts at 50 amps, but the way I actually wanted to use it is, say, 50 volts at 25 amps. And I gave a list of possible options that I wanted to go through it. The way I had it on paper or in theory, either 24 volt, 12 volt, maybe 36, 48 volt, and this means that I could have pushed quite amount of power through this if plan A was the way to go. And in my observation, I've noticed that it doesn't allow this to turn off. It shows 1.5 amps even at the middle of the night. I'm now referring to this controller. So this is why I had to ditch that plan and then just simply throw this red cable to the yellow, so this can then be powered by the power supply, or in my setup, either the solar panel or the battery of itself. So having it hooked up this way then limits it to only playing with voltages between 4 to 30. So even if I do get me a solar panel, those solar panels for the 12 volt setup, it depends how many cells are on those. But let's say for this discussion's sake, let's say I have 300 watt solar panel. They then must be in parallel, and then they shouldn't be exceeding the amperes between 25 and 30 amperes because of how this thing is set. If it was set to plan A, then that wouldn't have been a problem. So now this is deal or no deal. I'm still tinkering around with this, but so for now this thing, it works perfectly, of course, except for this low turning on in the morning, and I have it set for having turned on at the evening so it can turn on this mosquito killer. I'm just rambling now, so see you guys shortly. And a while later, you can see that the voltage finally stabilized. Let me just quickly turn it off. See the open circuit voltage, 22.9. There you go. I had to do that quickly before it triggers this insect killer. And it took like since a few hours or hour ago for this thing to be deactivated the dawn to dusk feature. It took around 10 minutes. I'm not willing to go through that again. So now we see that this panel voltage is 13.7 at 1.5 amps. One leads to the west and one to the east. It catches the morning sun is 13. I didn't, there's actually no switch on this. I actually just used the blade fuse. It's automotive fuse. It's actually 15 amp is overkill. Need to size it down a bit because there's no way 15 amps can be gotten or get from a 30 watt solar panel. So there we go. Let me just quickly show you guys. Oh, before I show you how the sun looks like in the morning in March, I'm not sure what the date today is. I'll put it somewhere down here. The quick summary, was this worth it? Except for those few perks, triggering, I don't know, I'm not sure, maybe it's just this controller that doesn't like this VA meter. I'm not quite sure what's on about it, but if you're willing to see beyond that, is it then suitable for solar setup to measure power coming from the solar panel to the battery? Of course, in my setup, through the shunt, through the charge controller to the battery. Is it worth it? For me, yes, because at this stage I'm using what you call it a 12 volt solar setup, dual solar panels, one to the east and one. There's this bell curve that's normally known, and that is when the sun starts in the morning, then it peaks up to the top, and then it winds off as the sun sets in the morning. Now I want actually two of those, as I mentioned in the videos in the past, the video. That's what the whole purpose of this, and now at least I have a way to see exactly, more or less. Of course, this is now the power that's coming in from the solar panel between the charge controller and the battery, because you know PWM is not like MPPT. It doesn't bring the voltage like in this case that you saw from 22 down to say 14.4 and then boosts the amp. It doesn't do that. PWM, it just like chops off the top part of the voltage, and then whatever current is left then is pushed to the battery. And of course, having a lead acid battery doesn't really add to the efficiency part, but for the time, this stage of my YouTube adventure or solar energy enthusiast, that's something I'm willing to let be. I see sodium ion headed to the market. There's lithium iron phosphate, so that's basically. So let me quickly show you guys the top side, and then, so yes, solar is yes. If it's a 12 volt system, yes. If the panel doesn't exceed 120 amps, now it depends, 120 watts, depending now on the size of the charge controller. So there are a few variables that needs to be considered. But for my situation, for my setup, this is a go. I just need to then later, still something I'm contemplating. If you like a Y strip connector here, and then of course I have the load connector to that. But let me show you guys what's up on the top side. The 210 watt solar panels for the storage area, the 40 watt solar panel. That's what it says on the front, and yeah, sorry about that. Let me get some light. Situation. I know you can see it, because I can see it. There we go, 50 watt. So the VA meter should be able to help me establish whether this is a 40 watt or a 50 watt panel. So the east panel is the 5 amp focus charge controller. This is just a quick brief for the first time viewers. And then the panel that I mentioned before. So hopefully this is going to be a clear, sunshiny day. Thank you for watching till the end, and see you guys in the next one.